We come today to celebrate the 200th anniversary of Warren County and to reflect on the accomplishments and on the failures our rich history creates. The earliest settlers moved into this formerly hostile environment and wilderness with a resolute desire to fashion a better and a more independent life for themselves and their families. During the first 60 years in our county, a great and wonderful transition occurred. Roads were built, farms were cleared, homes and mills were constructed, and most of those who stayed led prosperous and fruitful lives. By 1860, McMinnville was a thriving community of 2,000 people. They had a railroad providing a one-day travel to Nashville and a three-day travel to Charleston, South Carolina. We had numerous merchants, churches, schools, and professional people providing a multitude of services.
Being a steel worker and took up carpentry and could only find work in rural Shelby County outside of Memphis. Went to Germantown, the school there, graduated from high school, then had 2 years at Memphis State, which is now University of Memphis, and then graduated from medical school in 1956. Halfway through medical school, I married Ollie Tucker, my dear wife, known to many of us as Tuck. I served an internship at Erlanger Hospital for 1 year, and then 3 months public health department in Tennessee, enough to convince me I didn't want to do that kind of work. And then 2 years in the Army, having volunteered for the draft. And then knowing that I wasn't fit to be turned loose on the public, I did a year of general surgery residency, and then came here in January of 1961 to engage in the general practice of medicine, which I continued throughout till 1998.
We lived a few places in the South, in Texas and Alabama, before we moved here when I was about 7. And I've been living here ever since. So I grew up here and went to school here and came back and taught here for a while and raised my children here. And after my husband's death, I married Wally, and we're enjoying living here.
What are some of the biggest changes you've seen in healthcare and medicine over your course of practicing?
Well, first I was looking for a place of opportunity. I didn't want to live in a metropolitan area. Tuck and I wanted to live in a smaller town, but we needed to have a place of some economic security. And McMinnville had a lot of opportunity. There were only 7 doctors for 23,000, and back in 1961 when I came, the health department said there should have been at least 23 doctors here. But I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Smoot, Dr. Clark at McMinnville Medical Center, and then with Dr. Dietrich at Faulkner Queens Hospital. One of the reasons that I came here is that there was a diversity of economy with several factories, the hardwood flooring industry and agriculture and the nursery industry. We were not tied to one industry like Brown Shoe Factory in a small town in West Tennessee. If it shut down, no one had any money. But there was a diversity here, and principally we were served by 2 very old hospitals that had served a wonderful public service over the years, but they were quite old, needed to be updated, and the physician owners did not want to spend money in extensive remodeling because they were near retirement age. So the county court did vote, and we did get a Hillbrook Hospital, Warren County Hospital that was built very well. And of course, I was looking forward to a new hospital, and many other physicians, and looking for a place to practice, had decided not to come because of the older hospital situation. Continued to practice here, and we were able to recruit more physicians with the new hospital. And then about 1969, the hospital needed to be expanded, but the county court felt it didn't have the money for it. So Dr. Tom Frist and the Hospital Corporation of America came in and built the River Pond Hospital, which was a facility that was okay, but neither of the hospitals were able to achieve excellence because they just couldn't get it together financially.
I was born at Quebec, a little out in the country from Quebec. That was
Okay. Now, how long have you lived in Warren County?
since 1938.
Okay. What was it like for you and your family living through the Depression?
Well, this is a humorous story too. My daddy was sheriff. I lived in jail 6 years.
Okay. So you lived in jail for 6 years? Who was your daddy?
Hawkins Templeton,
Okay. And where was he sheriff at?
Sparta,
Okay.
for 6 years.
Okay. So when you think about those times during the Depression, how was it?
No, we lived better than anybody.
Did you?
The thing about it was that they were paying us for the prisoners was in the jail with us,
Mm-hmm.
and they were paying board on, county paid board on them, and they didn't lower their board for, I'd say 2 or 3 years.
Okay. So your family was able to.
So we got along well.
Okay. Good.
Robbie
Miss Robbie, what was your maiden name?
Melton,
Robbie Melton. And yours, sir? What is your name?
George Mason, please.
George Mason Beaver. And how old are you?
86.
Okay.
I'm 87.
86 and 87. Married you an older man, huh? Well, I'm gonna start with you, Miss Beaver. What is one of your earliest memories of Warren County?
One of my earliest memories is one of the real bad floods that came over in West Riverside. Seeing that there was a store building there, it was called Step Store, and they had it tied with ropes, hoping it wouldn't wash away. And you could just barely see the roof
Wow.
of the store. And you could, somebody, people always be doing things, walked across the railroad bridge, and the water was right up to that railroad bridge at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember everybody was down there looking at the flood. That's one of my earliest memories of something that was really happening.
Right, right. How about you, Mr. Beaver? What is one of your earliest memories of Warren County?
I was there, I don't know. I remember the old one was where Lively Studio was over here on Connell Street.
Mm-hmm.
When it burned, I was just a little bitty boy, stood there looking out the front window. It burned at night, awful big fire. It looked like the whole end of the town burning up.
Mm-hmm. So you remember that when the photo studio, or the photo school, I guess it was a photography school, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Lively School of Photography. Now, did any of you or any of your family ever serve in the military?
Yeah, I did.
Did you? What branch did you serve in?
I was in the Army Air Force.
Were you?
I went in 1941, and I enlisted. My dad had to, I wasn't old enough to get in, he had to sign me in. I was 20 years old. I joined children, and in September I'd have been 21, but 21 when the came adult then. Had to be 21 to get in the Army, so he signed me and I went on from there. Stayed into this war, World War II.
World War II?
Yeah, the 15th Air Force.
Okay. So you're one of, I think, described as the greatest generation, aren't you?
That's what they say, yeah.
Good. Well, thank you for your service, because I know, you know, that had to be hard for you and hard for your family. And I can think a lot of people take for granted the freedoms we have because of the military. So.
Sister Nelson Mom, can I go by C? And that's what most people call me anymore.
How old are you?
I'm 88 years old.
Where were you born?
Born right here in Warren County.
Were you ever married?
I've been, yes, married. My wife deceased last November.
What was her name?
Alda, A-L-D, Alda Haley. I was a school teacher. I was a superintendent, a principal, and a teacher. And a football coach, a basketball coach.
Yeah.
And I was raised on the farm. And I guess some of my early memories, we did a lot of farming in the summertime. And I guess my last year, my father went to school in Murfreesboro. And at that time, you could teach before you got your degree. So he taught, got his degree, and I was staying home and looking after the farm and all that kind of thing. And so that's where I learned the farming skills that I received.
Did you ever do service in the Army?
Yes, 5.5 years. I was the commanding officer. I was on one ship for 2.5 years as the navigator. And then on another ship, different ship, my captain of the ship I was the navigator on was the US-70 Choctaw. Those ships, fleet-going ships, are named after Indians. And this ship was the US-70, the Choctaw. And I was the navigator on that ship. And then the captain recommended me for promotion, and I became the commanding officer of the USS 92, the Undaunted.
You have seen a whole lot of changes. You've seen a whole lot of things come and go. I know that you have vocalized a whole lot of years towards education. So could you sort of sum up things, telling us the things that you've seen change in Warren County when it comes to education?
Top of the list, discipline has gone out the window. When I came along, discipline wasn't questioned. The teacher was in control. If you got a spanking at school, you got a spanking when you got home. But the teacher was in control. But discipline has slipped. People didn't miss school. Now they do. A lot of changes in the educational system has been made. And a lot of not for the best. So those are some of the major changes that I've seen. Of course, transportation's improved. The first year I went to high school, rode a bus that was pulled by a team of mules. And then later, the driver got a bus and rode a school bus the rest of the time. But I've seen a lot of changes. In fact, at one time there were 5 high schools here in Warren County. Dearborn, Centertown, Irving College, Central, 5 of them. Tremendous rivalry, tremendous rivalry. I had a full scholarship to Lipscomb to go play ball. and I was getting ready to go. The last day of school, at Liberal School, it was a high school then, Liberal High School. You know where that is? Okay. Well, here comes the principal, G.W. Hinckley, and the coach, Paul Golden, and my daddy. And they said, if you would agree to it, we'd like for you to come back to school and play ball another year in high school. Then you could, if you had not met all the graduation requirements. So that day, the principal went back and failed me in biology, which I'd had in the 10th grade, because biology was a required course. So I failed biology that day, went back another year and played ball.
So you were born in Viola. This is Viola, Tennessee, where your home is.
Yes.
Can you tell us about your spouse's name? Tell us about your spouse.
Red Gaffin.
Okay.
You ever heard of Red Gaffin? Walter C. Red Gaffin. I met him when I was teaching at Morrison.
Okay. If you wanted us to know something about Red Gaffin, what would you tell us?
Well, he was one of the most honest, hard-working people that I've ever known. He would go up to the school, try to warm it up for the kids when they'd get there early in the morning. The primary room was hard to heat, and I've known him in cold weather to go there about 3 o'clock in the morning to fire that furnace. And he coached basketball, and he just taught 2 grades. And he taught in high school at Morrison, and then he taught at Dearborn. When we first married, we went to Dearborn. He was teaching out there. And that was a nice community. We enjoyed that.
Now, in what?
He was principal up here, I think it was 22 years.
In Morrison?
Here, Viola.
Oh, in Viola. Okay. So,
Like I say, I started teaching at Morrison, had 3rd and 4th grades over there, and that was when things were really hard. I made $55 a month.
and what year was that?
I started teaching in 38.
Okay.
Made $55 a month and was paying interest back on money I'd borrowed at Citibank to go to school on. And then I was the first manager of Sears Roebuck when they opened an office there.
Okay.
Well, it was similar to a junior college, but it was built by the people in Viola. And it was a 1-story building, had 3 big rooms in it. And then later then, the citizens built a big 2-story building. And that's where I did my first public speaking.
Oh, really? Well, share that with us. That sounds like a memory that you have.
Well, we had a Viola Community Center, and I was 5 and a half, I believe, at that time, and there was a long poem that I knew. Little Alfred Annie was come to our house to stay to wash the cups and saucers up, brush the crumbs away, and shoo the chickens off the porch, and brush the hearth and sweep. And the goblins will get you if you don't watch out. Now, that was just one part of it. So they thought I was kind of smart, you know, and I asked Mama if I could say that. And she couldn't go that night because my younger sister was sick, so I went with my older sister and her boyfriend. And all the people ahead of me had gone down. We had a stage that had steps at either end of the stage. And the president and the secretary had their little table down in front of the stage. So when they called my name, well, I was going to go around and go up the end of the steps, you know, like everybody else did. And Mr. Roy wouldn't just reach down, pick me up, and put me on the stage. I thought that's what scared me. Anyway, I said part of it and then I forgot. And Josephine prompted me, and I didn't understand what she said. And I said, "What did you say, Joe?" You can imagine the laughter. She was too embarrassed to hit me anymore, and I stood there. Finally, I stomped my little foot, and I said, "Well, are you going to tell me, Joe?" She still didn't tell me. I finally thought of it, but anyway, the man said, well, honey, do you want me to help you down? I said, no, I'm not finished yet.
You taught?
Just taught, I taught the 3rd grade most of the time.
Did
I
you?
taught at William Biles. Well, that was the last place I taught. I taught at Philadelphia and Grundy County and Fairview, Urban College, and the last place I taught was at, not a school anymore, it's where the county office is.
Right, the William Biles
William Biles.
you mentioned a minute ago. Now, are there any particular memories that you can share with us about your teaching years?
Well, I enjoyed it. Had some nice sweet children. I really enjoyed my children.
So, and you said that one of the last grades you taught was the 3rd grade?
And I was teaching at William Biles, taught the 3rd grade.
Since you were a teacher for so many years, thinking about that, those times that you were a teacher, and looking at how things are now, what have you seen that has changed, for the good or the bad, in the teaching?
It's completely changed.
And how is that?
Well, the children were all so loving and so good then, we didn't have any trouble teaching. Now, there's a lot goes on. They tell me that there's a lot goes on with the schools. I always started, used to when they let us, I started with reading the Bible every morning and had prayer with my children, or had them to read. And
Yeah, we don't do that anymore, do we?
don't do that anymore. Then we started off with, usually with our arithmetic classes. We just go on through the day with the different classes.
Now, did you teach different subjects throughout the day?
All the 3rd grade subjects is mostly what I taught. I did teach all 8 grades one time, but most of the time I just taught the 3rd grade.
If you could say something to the people of Warren County, being that this is our 200th year anniversary, if you could tell them something that people in the future could use to make their life good or continue to have a good life, what would you share with them? What word of wisdom would you want to share with them?
Well, I'd tell them to put the Bible back in school.
Well, we have always lived on the farm all of our married life. We were both raised on farms. Papa has always been on the farm, farming, except he had 7 years working with the McMinnville Block Company. And then I had 13 years of service with the Department of Public Welfare and the Department of Education in Van Buren County.
Had dairy operation and milk grade A, milk cheese plant, cheese milk all the time. And then beef, got out of that, I got rich at that and got in the beef business, got rich in that again too.
Did you ever do service in the military?
Yeah. I went overseas for 9 months and was in the Battle of the Bulge.
Where'd you go?
Europe, Germany.
I'm like Lear, I can just remember we never went hungry. We always had something to eat because we raised it on the farm. We had our meats, we had our canned foods from the garden,
but there was no money. Mother was teaching school for like $60 a month.
$2 a day.
And some locations she was teaching in, we had to go there to that community and stay all week. We rented a room in somebody's house, and she always took her 4 children with her, and we would go home on weekends.
When you were younger and raising your family, what did you do for fun?
I don't think we had any, did we?
Well, the children loved to play with their cousins. Cousins lived close by, and they played with them. As our children, probably about 19 and 59, I guess, or 49, we got our first black and white TV. And of course, that was entertainment for them, to watch things on TV. And another thing, we bought a pony for the kids, and the oldest one, Mark, he loved that pony. His name was Blackjack, so. But we had our day with the pony. And then the kids were on the farm. We occasionally, I know when Miriam was 18 months old and Mark was
about 4 years.
About 4 years old, we made a trip to Florida. Leard rented another man's farm, and they lived in Florida, down in Miami, and they just insisted we come to see them. It took us a whole week to go down there and visit and come back. No interstates in that day.
The roads back then went by everybody's mailbox and around their garden. And it's one way. If you get behind somebody driving slow, you just drove slow for miles and miles.
Now, in your life, what have you done for a living?
Well, I've been a jack at all trades. After I got out of the war, I went to college, graduated in 1950. I went to work in Nashville for the Wilson Truck Company and worked there for about 3 years, and then I moved back to McMinnville in 1954, which I had some property here that I'd accumulated before and after World War II. And I moved back to McMinnville and built this home we're sitting in. And I bought Mr. John Gessler's farm in Morrison, about 1,100 acres, and raised Angus cattle, black Angus cattle, registered. And then I worked at the nursery along with having the farm also, Boyd Nursery Company. And I traveled on the road trying to sell a little nursery stock in the north and east of the United States.
Okay. Now you mentioned Boyd Nursery Company. Was that your family's nursery?
Yes, that was my grandfather started that in 1886, I believe it was.
Okay. What was your grandfather's name?
John Henry Harrison Boyd.
Okay. Now, were there other family members with you that ran that nursery and everything?
Yes, I had, in my family there were born 12 children.
Okay.
But 2 of them died at an early age with scarlet fever and some other kind of fever.
I can tell you a whole lot about my family, and we've all, of course, like I say, been in this neighborhood. My daddy, by the way, back in hard times, when you didn't get paid anything, was a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, he told me a lot of times that he taught at Vervilla, which I don't know where you remember, there's a schoolhouse there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, he taught a lot of times when the people in the county couldn't pay him, that the people, the parents of the students would bring him food and stuff, peas and beans and everything else to keep it going. They also paid with scrip back in those days because they didn't have no money. And when they take it to the bank discounted it and took a portion of it, so they didn't get much pay after all, at all. Of course, he taught for years, and I told somebody I ought to be the smartest guy in the county because I went to every school in the county, and I even laughed and told a lot of people I went to 2 colleges, Irving College and Morris College. And so I ought to have a pretty good education because I could name you, I went to Brookside, Liberal, Wayside, there you go, which is Shake Rag, as you want to call it, or Midway down.
Right.
And went to Fairview and Brookside, Oakland, and I may have left out 1 or 2, but I went to nearly all of them. When I was 13 years old, my daddy was the manager at that time of Western Auto Store. And he worked for a fellow by the name of W.W. Doc Bragg. And after school, my daddy hired me to work at Western Auto Store with him. And when I got ready to graduate from high school, the war was over and Doc Bragg come back home. He'd been overseas. And when he come back, he hired me to go with him, and he bought it out a John Deere dealership. And also, before the war, he was a Buick dealer, and sold Buicks behind Western Auto Store. Didn't even have a garage. He had Les Upchurch uptown to do all his service work for him. But he sold Buicks, and he had it in his blood, and he wanted to go back into the car business. So he left. Joe Lentz was the manager at Western Auto Store at that time. So he left there and went down and bought out J.N. Jaggers in the old Joe Powell Shelton building. Back before then, that belonged to Dr. Brown. And also J.N. Jaggers, which was an agricultural teacher too. But he had the Kaiser Fraser automobile dealership down there, and also the John Deere dealership. I was proud of John Deere because it was easy to sell because I built it from nothing. In fact, when I first started out, our competition was International Harvester, Farmall, and Alice Chambers. They was all strong, and I really had to get out and demonstrate nearly every tractor I had before I sold it to anybody. But I have sold. One morning, I had 3 different customers come in, and of course back then, that's cheap as dirt now, but it's high back then. I sold 3 40-20s before 11 o'clock to 3 different people in one day. And one of them was Mr. Otis Roller, and one of them was his brother, T. Roller, and the other was Mr. Frank Henniger that lived in the Blues Hill area. But Ms. Sullivan at Alice Chambers' place uptown heard about that I'd sold 3 one morning. She couldn't believe it. In fact, she sent somebody down there to find out if I did sell that many. But anyway, that's some of the history of the John Deere part.
Well, when I got out of high school, I went to work at John Oster, and I worked there for about a year until I met this one, and he decided that he didn't want me to work, only he put me to work in the nursery. And the first order I ever took, they asked for a Semifuchsia racemosa, and I said, I don't know what that is. And the man was very sympathetic with me because he said, well, I'll give you the common name of it. And so that was the first order I ever took for our nursery. But we have been in the nursery business all of our married life.
Okay. So I assume she answered that one for you, Mr. Scott, so you were in the nursery business when you got married.
Yes, we were. And,
have you done the nursery business most of your life?
yes. I went in the Army and served 3 years during the Korean War. I returned home, went up to Indianapolis, Indiana, and my brother and I worked up there for a while. And we told him one day, I said, let's go back to Tennessee. We're not done no good here. And so we come back to Tennessee and went into the nursery business. That's been 55 years now.
my mom, take care of my younger brothers and sisters, because I happen to be the oldest daughter. And I was a 4-H club girl, and I canned and won first prizes at the Warren County Fair, and the first Warren County Fair was where Crumlin Lumber Company is now. Yeah, during the Depression, Mrs. Cunningham had the library. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, what was her name? Miss Cunningham?
Maud Cunningham.
Maud Cunningham, okay.
Her name was Maud.
Okay.
Yeah, see, I knew her back when I was a little girl. Okay. And I worked, Roosevelt paid to have people, to can for people to preserve food during the Depression. And I and another lady went out in the country, and we had 3 huge, big canners, pressure cookers, and went out and canned for people so they could have something to eat in the wintertime.
Okay.
That's me.
It sounds like you've done quite a bit in your life. Now,
I have.
Now, I'm going to expand on something just a minute. You said that you were talking about the food and all you did for the Depression.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. So you lived in this area during the Depression?
Yes.
What was Warren County like from your eyes during the Depression?
Oh, I don't know. Horses, buggies. It was pretty bad.
Was
It was
it?
pretty bad.
Okay.
We tried to grow everything you ate. That's what I did. I went out in the country too. I canned corn. I canned everything you could think of for people. But we took toll of it. You know, the government took toll. And then that toll went to people that, like here in town, so they could have food to have. That's all.
So when you say the government took toll, they took part of it to share with other people? Okay. You picked blackberries and...
Well, in the summer months, and then one thing, we didn't wear blue jeans or anything like that, little print dresses we had on, and barefoot.
Right.
And let's see, well, I remember that we made our own playthings. You know, you could take a spool of thread, and I forget how you do it, but something about putting a rubber band on it, and it'd just crawl along. And our brothers made stilts, and they had different bars to swing on to, and it's just things like that we did. And my sister and I made playhouses, we called them. Dig out a place and took junk out there. I said our grandchildren would never play with the junk we played with, old rusty pans and a broken mirror and just things like that. But we didn't get hurt, we just played with them.
You brought up something that triggered my mind here. So you're talking about Main Street. What can you remember, Mr. Gregor, let's start with you here. What kind of changes, or what can you remember about Main Street when you were growing up?
First, I remember about Main Street. Okay, you know where the fountain is?
Yes.
Okay, the fountain was in the middle, at the end. See, it went this way. It was down at the end of it. And they had a place for people to drink on one side and horses on the other side. And McMinnville had just one street down through there, and it was cobbled. I said it was cobbled because I asked Patty Nunley when they tore it up what was under it, and she said some kind of stone was under it. Now I remember that. Okay. And the stores was nothing like they are now.
Did you have a particular place that was your favorite place to stop at when you on Main Street?
If you had money, you went to the drugstore. And back then they had, let's see, Hutchins and Davies, Bossick's drugstore, and Leaper's drugstore. You don't even know anything about that.
I've heard the names of some of those.
Yeah, they had all of those, yeah.
Okay.
One was on one corner, and the Leapers were in the center.
What was it like living through the Depression?
It was more difficult to observe others than it was for me. Because my father had always insisted to get an education, and I did, and got a BS degree from Tennessee Tech, got a master's degree from Furman University, did further advanced schooling up at the University of North Carolina, and also further training at Appalachian State University up in Boone, North Carolina. So it was not as difficult for me as it was for some, put it that way. And thanks to my father here, he alleviated that situation a lot.
I'm 99.
Where were you born?
I was born about a mile north of Centertown over here.
Okay. Say that you're married. What's your spouse's name?
Irene Lawrence. She's Irene Gaither. What I did for a living?
Yes, sir.
Let's see. Well, I went fishing one day.
Don't be funny.
I
Question.
just farmed. I made molasses for 70 years in the fall.
Could you tell us a little bit about making molasses, the process?
Well, do you know what it's made from?
No, sir.
Well, it grows more like corn, and in September and October, it'll mature, and you run it through a press, you get the juice, and then boil it down, and it'll make the molasses.
Did you ever do service in the Army?
No, sir. I was turned down World War II.
Okay.
Too little, I don't know whether too little or I wasn't sharp enough, but they wouldn't have me.
Did you go to church?
Did I go to church?
Yes,
Yes, sir. I go to church.
Where do you go to church at?
First Methodist Church here at Centertown, and I helped organize it in 1931.
Could you tell us what it was like living through the Depression?
There wasn't nothing going on. You couldn't get $1 for nothing. Yeah, I worked 3 months for 50 cents a day. I mean, from daylight till dark.
Well, what did you do during the Depression? Did you make molasses still?
Well, I farmed.
You farmed?
Fed hogs and milked cows and done anything we could to make a dime.
Now, did you go to school here in Warren County?
Yes, sir. Where else you think I'd go when I lived here?
Where else? Where did you? What school did you go to?
There's about 2 miles down here where I lived till 24. There, across this next crossroads down here, there's a one teacher school.
Okay.
I went there till 24 and we moved up here. Then I went to Centertown. They went to school at Centertown till 24.
Okay.
I sold in 1932. I sold molasses for 15 cents for a half a gallon, 30 cents a gallon.
Okay. And what year was that?
What year was the Depression?
In the 30s?
32.
32? Okay. Now, yeah, I think you were asked a minute ago, how did you survive the Depression?
That's how I survived.
Selling molasses?
Well, rode hogs, sold hogs for 2 cents a pound. Rode me a bunch of hogs and molasses. Sold milk for a dime a gallon.
I was asking have you seen any changes for the good that made farming easier for you over that time?
Tractor, from a mule to a tractor.
Oh, yeah. I remember when they had yoke of oxen and plowed it.
Okay.
Then they got mules, and now they've got a tractor. And where I'd plow an acre a day with a pair of mules, they go in there now, plow 50 acres a day.
Okay, so the big
now, is that a change?
Yep, quite a bit of change, huh?
Okay.
Things have changed a lot in the last few years.
Yes,
so.
sir.
We always had plenty to eat, but most of it was milk and bread. We had cows on the farm and everything, milk. And we raised our own corn. We had instead of buying, we raised whippoorwill peas. That was really for stock. But we eat them whippoorwill peas as like, they was beans, kind of like beans. And we kind of had to make out. Everybody had to make out. Molasses, we had molasses and bread and milk stuff.
My earliest memories, of course, my mother was a teacher, and she taught in the rural schools in Van Buren County, in the schools where she had all 8 grades. And a lot of the families in the communities were very poor. Everybody was pretty much on the same level financially.
We meet here tonight in recognition of the first official business transacted in our newly founded county 200 years ago. The founding father of our country completed his second term of office in 1797, only 10 years prior to the establishment of Warren County. One quote that I feel defines the legacy of President George Washington was his statement that it is impossible to rightly govern without God and Bible. I am confident that the founding fathers of our country and our county embodied these same principles because of what they were able to accomplish. The first men appointed to govern Warren County faced seemingly impossible tasks. Our forefathers accepted the solemn responsibilities of their duties and served with wisdom and integrity. Challenges faced by our elected officials today are much different in nature, but just as difficult. And now, as in 1808, the women and men who have been elected to serve Warren County have the awesome responsibility of charting our future as our forefathers did. Thomas Jefferson, who served in the office of president during the time of our county being established, stated, "I like the dreams of the future better than the history of the past." The value of our heritage is indisputable, and in no way does this statement diminish the importance of our past. The quote simply emphasizes the unquestionable value of our future and points to the importance of being visionary. So, therefore, as Thomas Jefferson so aptly reminds us, we cannot and must not rest upon what has already been accomplished. Let us tonight, through this celebration of our past, rededicate ourselves to the task at hand, to work together, to support each other, to lay aside personal differences, and focus on building the future for our children, our grandchildren, and generations to come. 200 years from now, let future generations of Warren County look back on our service and realize that we truly desired to rightly govern as we build upon our 200-year heritage.
One of my happiest memories, we were in swimming out in the country, down in what they call the Blue Hole, down at Charles Creek. And we were swimming down there. And had this big tree with a grapevine. You swing on the grapevine, get over the middle of the river, pull straight up and turn loose and dive down and hit it. Dive into the river. Well, my daddy did that, and he miscalculated, didn't hit the middle of the river, his knee against his chin, bursted his chin into 100 different little things. Gristles came out of his chin for a year. I remember one time I was dating my girlfriend, who later became my wife, and was at her house. It was in the wintertime and it's freezing cold. And my daddy's car, he didn't have an antifreeze in the car. And that thing froze up.
Oh, I remember going to town one time and we went, my dad was in a closed truck. We took some little pups, had there on the farm, and thought we could sell them. Let everybody come by, you want to buy a pup? But we never did sell none and take them back home. That's the first memory I've had of going to town.
And the big thing, we went to the Magnus Library, and in the basement was a place that had little beds in it, and you could lay your babies down and you could go there and rest while or some other member of the family would go along, and they'd take the children up to the library and take them in the basement and read books to them while the grown-ups did the shopping.
Oh, they had music and soul pies, and usually the boy bought his girlfriend's pie. And I thought I was too little. And my daddy promised me he'd buy my pie. I wasn't going to take one. I was too young, really. I thought, and I was ready. And he said if I'd take one, he'd buy mine, and he did.
We played ball, we played football with the boys, we played baseball when it was baseball season, and anything else that you could think of, kids think of to play. We used to play a game that we called Annie Over. We'd throw the ball over the roof of the house and we'd run around, and the others that was to catch it would run around and try to catch us. There was a lot of games like that that we played.
Oh, we went on picnics. We had a lot of picnics, and HB traveled a lot for the church, and we'd pack up a picnic and go do that, and we would go fishing. And our son Wade, he's very tender-hearted, and he didn't want to kill anything, so he didn't want to really let us catch any fish. So he would beat the water with his fishing pole, and of course there was no fish going to come around. So we never did catch any fish. And HB took him hunting, and of course he didn't want to kill anything hunting. And so HB said, you can hear him coming for a mile in the woods. So the hunting was out. But what he enjoyed doing was buying the little matchbox cars and beating them up with a hammer and trying to rebuild them.
And this was a time before girls started wearing pants, of their own. And on Saturday afternoon, we were riding down the road, and they said, "Oh goodness, Mary Catherine, there comes Uncle Pierce, this old man coming down the road in a buggy." And they said, "Here we are, riding astride, and pants on. He doesn't know you. Maybe if you get on the inside, he won't recognize us." Well, the next day, at this little country church, he was up preaching. Just didn't know what this world was coming to. Going down the road yesterday, met these 3 girls riding horseback, and they were riding astride, and one of them even had on men's pants. I thought I was going to have to leave. I always had trouble with my giggle box.
And we did that for things like that. We went to the movies. The movie cost you 10 cents, or if you didn't have 10 cents, you could take 2 or 3 eggs or 2 or 3 Irish potatoes. And Mr. Odom would take those, you know, and you could go right on in.
So that where was that at? What theater was that at?
The old Dixie Theater.
Okay. So you played ball. What kind of ball did you play?
Ball. Well, I started out when I was a freshman in high school and started playing football, and we scrimmaged one time with seniors. I hurt my back, and I've still got problems with it. So I quit that, and I played softball and things like that.
Okay. Well, let me ask you one more question here, and for the people of Warren County, if you could leave a word of wisdom for the people of Warren County, something that you've learned from your life experiences and the way life is now, what memory or what thought would you want to leave them?
Have a clean town. Remove your alcohol. Remove your places that serves alcohol. Have a good place for families to go to, that they can have fun together, clean fun. Have a lot of good working places for people to work, so they won't have to go out of town, out of Warren County to find a job. This town flourished. It was a wonderful, wonderful town, still is, but the jobs are not here. Build the town back up like it used to be.
I don't know, I've had a good life. I'm just thankful that I can live here by myself, do my own cooking, and drive, and do things that need to be done.
Life is awful short. Live it to the fullest. See all you can and travel if you can. And that's me. I've done all of that.
Just relax and be yourself and don't worry about what you could have. It's what you have. Be thankful for what you have. Not worry about what you could have.
Hello, I'm Jared King. As I was preparing this Eagle project, I didn't realize how much I would learn and just what a rich heritage we have here in Warren County. Through this project, I have learned more of my own heritage and how important it is to preserve our heritage. Hope you enjoy this presentation.
Hello, I'm Tim King. My son Jared did his Eagle project for the heritage of Warren County. And through the project, we learned so much. Having been born and raised in Warren County, I didn't realize through the history of the living history of the people in Warren County how much we actually do have. The heritage of Warren County is so rich, from the farming to the teachers to the leadership of Warren County. Our roots do run deep in Warren County. There's a lot of history that we need to make sure that we maintain. Warren County is a jewel. It's a jewel of the South, and we need to realize the heritage that we do have, the history that we do have, and never let that go, and be able to take the things from the past that we've learned from these interviews and from the future, and make Warren County the best that we can.
Any parting words, Mr. Dillon, on this bicentennial year?
I just want to say that we live in a great county.
we have a great future ahead of us, and we have some great young leadership coming on. I'm not the least bit worried about the future of Warren County. I think it'll continue to prosper. I think we have people that love the county, they love each other, and they love the Lord. And I think we have a wonderful future ahead of us.
What a better way to say goodbye to the bicentennial, to look forward to the future.
Absolutely.
He deems it good. So let's sing happy birthday now. Pat, you want to start it? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Warren County. Happy birthday to you.
The last 60 years also gave us the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Balkan, Kuwait, and Iraq War, plus gas shortages, traffic jams, urban renewal, and a host of blessings and problems. Having briefly reviewed our past, the first 200 years, sometimes fascinating and sometimes tragic, what do we learn from it? Only if we learn from past mistakes will we be better able to face and cope with the failures and the future. Several attributes are evident and paramount in the lives of those living and those that will live after us that will spell our success or our disaster in the next 200 years. Success will depend on our willingness to work and produce together as one, guided by an unwavering belief in our Heavenly Father, our fellow man, our country, and our family. A lack of these values will spell doom and disaster. May God bless Warren County, Tennessee, and the United States of America.